What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Filip Latocha. Today we are talking about my brand new acquisition of the Nike Zoom Fly 4 in the awesome neon orange color, as you can tell. And I'm going to give you guys my first impressions of it, as I've just barely ran with it the last couple of days just to feel it out. And yeah, we're just going to talk about my experience with it. So before we get into it, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. You guys already know how this goes. If you're a continued subscriber to the channel, love you guys very much. If you don't like the video or subscribe to the channel or do anything other than watch this, I mean, I guess that's nice and all, but like, you gotta comment at the very least. And if you don't, I'm gonna give you the Amazon Theragun treatment. So just be careful, alright? Let's roll the intro. Okay, now that we got all the jokes aside, let's roll with this shoe. So first things first, I will give you guys the specs right up here just so you can see them, but I will kind of just talk about them as I see them right now. So, of course, it's the Zoom Fly 4. This is, as I understand it, advertised in two different ways. One, it's advertised as the training partner / everyday racer to the Vaporfly Next Percent, which makes sense to me because of the similar outsole build and sort of the structural upper similarities, even though there's a lot of differences we definitely need to get to, which I'm excited to talk about. But it's also being advertised as a race shoe as well. That's kind of like the step down from the big guns in Nike's lineup, such as the Alpha Fly, the Vaporfly Next Percent, you name it. So that's kind of interesting. The dynamic's going to be kind of fun to play around with that as the time goes along. But, you know, just to be clear, in the filming of this video and the first couple of miles I put in this shoe, I'm currently running with an inconclusive fractured fibula in my right leg. So my running's not perfect with this currently, but I am still able to put in a few slower miles. So once I can start picking up some speed and we get like 50 to 100 plus miles into this thing, I'm going to tell you how it's going to function at a faster pace, I suppose. So yeah, first things first, let's just talk about some of the general specs. The shoe does weigh, for the size 8.5, it's about 9.7 ounces, almost 10 ounces. So you can obviously assume this is kind of running into the trainer weight for most shoes that I've come across that aren't necessarily like the Tempo Next Percent, which is its own kind of beast in a way. The heel, to my understanding, is like somewhere around 39 millimeters. The forefoot is about 31, which gives it the 8 millimeter offset that we're pretty much used to in like the Vaporfly Next Percent family of shoes. It's not quite like the Alpha Fly, which is the 4 millimeters, and the Tempo Next Percent, which is about 10, where, you know, that trainer and racer don't necessarily blend well together, I suppose. So this one is a pretty effective design for, in terms of like the general specs, to be a training partner to the Vaporfly Next Percent, which is ideal, of course, because yeah, the 8 millimeter offset is very important in this case to simulate a slightly higher heel feel with the comfort that the Tempo, not the Tempo, I would say maybe the Vaporfly Next Percent doesn't necessarily provide as a luxury. Sometimes it does, some people just really like it, but there's a lot of stuff here. So I think we're going to work backwards on this one. Let's start with the outsole, of course, first. I'm only going to showcase just the bottom of one of the outsoles. This is the right foot, as you can see. Not a whole lot going on. There's a bit of dirt, a bit of sand, a bit of like grub just all over the shoe, because, you know, I'm running outside with it. It's a little bit muddy, it's cold, it's Chicago, everything's kind of disgusting. But as you can obviously tell, the outsole is pretty much matching, you know, the Vaporfly Next Percent verbatim almost, minus the fact that I think in the Vaporfly 2 there's a bit of I would say the outsole forefoot area has a bit of a stick out in terms of this rubber padding, whereas the Zoom Fly 4, it's kind of sealed in right here. It's not, you know, construding over the rubber in this midsole area. And of course, one of the other things, of course, is it does have this reinforcement here, which is very good if you're a heel striker. And that's pretty much cool in terms of the design here, but there's one major caveat, that's the difference, which you've probably guessed because it's a trainer, not necessarily a racer. This is using React foam going all the way across. It's not using ZoomX. That's a very important distinction to make here between the two shoes, because again, the React is supposed to be a lot more stable, a lot more more mile friendly rather than something that's going to make you go crazy fast. I guess we can say that's going to wear you out a lot quicker, like a ZoomX foam, which, don't get me wrong, the ZoomX is amazing, but the idea here is if this was running ZoomX foam rather than React, why would they advertise it as a trainer? Do you know what I mean? So it's the idea that this is kind of a step down trainer overall, compared to the Vaporfly Next Percent, but it also gives you the stability and comfort that you would get in something like a React, something like, you know, just any kind of Nike shoe that's using a React foam all the way across the board. The other thing to note here is that there is a carbon plate in the shoe, in this area, and it's a full plate shoe similar to the Vaporfly Next Percent, which is an interesting development because, again, I'm like 98% sure of this, but in the 2% of me does want to make sure, just doing some additional research. I think the plate is carbon fiber all the way across, and it's not the synthetic plastic plate that would be in like the Tempo Next Percent in comparison to like the Alpha Fly, which is using the carbon plate. So I gotta really verify that, but from what I'm understanding and reading about this shoe, there's a carbon plate going away all the way across the shoe, which is interesting. It's pretty great. I suppose it's a good approach. It's just now Nike has finally moved into this path where a daily trainer or daily racer shoe has the carbon plate. So I guess we are set in stone to go in that direction. I'm kind of, I'm optimistic about it. I don't hate it whatsoever. The carbon plate is great. It's just you're going to feel that stiffness in your calves and like some of the tendons in your legs, the IT bands, kind of like what I was experiencing the last couple of weeks here. And it's just going to be interesting to see how that plays out in the long run. So now, for this upper, there's a couple of things we definitely need to talk about that I like and dislike. First and foremost, the upper itself is kind of got like a 2-layer mesh to it. So this heel area, what you're going to see right away when you look at it, this heel collar and this general area where your foot is sliding into, it looks like an exact replica of the Nike Infinity React Run Flyknit 1. And that is something really interesting to me, that they decided to go in that direction of being able to slide in that easily, have that Infinity React upper in this particular area. And like, I don't know, it's like much easier to slide into this shoe than like the girl of your dreams' DMs on Instagram. So that was really cool for me to kind of, play around with. And the first time I did it, I'm like, ooh, this is cool. Like, this is interesting. I see what the direction is. It's ultimately going for comfort. It's not going necessarily for this kind of like speed lockdown where you're like, you're in this for a ride, buddy. Like, we're going for it. It's like, this is like, all right, we're going to get in comfortably and we're going to work it from there. And then, of course, the heel pillow is like super nice, or the Achilles pillow. That was a nice feature that I didn't really think about until we were running, that it was a really cool thing. The double layer of the mesh and the textile that's going on here is great. There's just one concern with it, is that it is breathable, but like today specifically when it was a little bit colder, there was a lot of airflow into the toes and whatnot. And I was experiencing a minor numbness in my left foot when I was running. And I'm not sure if it's because of the lock of the shoe or if it was just because it was cold today. I'm going to get some more research on that as I, continue doing my my field research of running with a broken fibula. So that's pretty cool overall, I would say. The one thing that is kind of odd about the shoe is, this is kind of one of the negatives, I think it's happened a dozen times as I've been tying in and out of it, is this pull tab right here, okay? So it looks like, we'll see if I can pull it up right there. So at the top of this pull tab right here, there's like this overcut here, okay? And what happens is when you're tying the shoe, my tendency is to want to like tie it right on top of this pull tab and just have it locked in right there. But for some reason, the shoelaces do get stuck up here, and when I tie the shoes, I'm going to have this bump right here if I don't manually adjust it myself. So I don't know if this was a design by Nike as like the point was to tie over this pull tab, or if the idea is you're supposed to pull this piece way out and it's supposed to tie right in front of this pull tab and this is supposed to lock it down. I can't quite figure it out yet, but I'm just running based on the way the shoe, slides into my foot and the way it feels comfortable the most, which is for me to tie over the pull tab for now. But on that note, tying the shoe after that is pretty straightforward. The lockdown here in this shoelace area has been pretty great. So yeah, this has been overall design-wise very interesting, and I see the direction is less of a race shoe, but definitely more for like an everyday trainer racer kind of vibe, in addition to not necessarily a recovery runner, because if you've got a carbon plate in the shoe, I don't think you're necessarily aiming for recovery in this front. You're definitely aiming for a little bit more speed. So this could be like your tempo trainer in your lineup. So in my existing lineup, if the Alphafly is my racer, the 1080 version 11 is my like daily recovery shoe, this would be kind of where the tempo next percent was for me last year, where it would be the more tempo threshold workout shoe with the everyday racer kind of vibe. So if I wanted to go fast, the shoe will most likely go very fast for me if I, of course, try to push myself in the shoe. I wish I could give you those numbers and, you know, tell you that we can hit them and that the speed ride on the shoe is really comfortable. But again, my apologies, guys. Like, this broken fibula, or supposed broken, we don't really know what's going on, it's kind of a hindrance to my speed. I'm like running maybe like 7:30 minutes per mile, and that's like about the cap of what I can do without worrying that I can push something to a bad spot. But again, I digress. So yeah, I guess the last thing on that note is the pull tabs. Extremely comfortable, I think. Easy way to slide in. You almost don't even need this back one. You can literally just pull this top one over. Your foot slides in pretty easily, and it's a pretty good ride from that point. So that's my first impressions, I think, of the shoe overall, is that this is definitely a very comfortable, everyday racer style type of shoe that you can take on, as far as I'm concerned, like any type of run you want. Like, I've been reading some of the reviews online about it, that it's very unstable at slower speeds. I can see why that would be because of the carbon plate, because that plate just wants you to go fast, because it wants to like bend, and it just wants to kind of propel you and spring in that sort of fashion. But I think you can go on slower runs with this, and you can have a really good time with it. You just got to, you know, kind of play to the rest of your shoe lineup depending on where this thing goes. So that's kind of my take on it so far. I will definitely be running with this as my replacement for the Mach 4, which is officially hit over 350, 400 plus miles, and it needs to retire because that's the shoe that kind of really put me in this conundrum in the first place. So I think we're going to end the video here. And of course, if you got any, you know, suggestions on the shoe, if you like it, if you want to give me some feedback on the review, or you've got a fun experience with the shoe overall, definitely leave it in the comments below. I read all the comments, obviously. I will like it if I agree or disagree with an assessment, or you make a really good point. That's obviously a good thing to do. Make sure you like the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And I think we're just going to continue on with this fancy shoe that has like the color palette of what reminds me of like Florida for some reason. This is just like, it's tropical. I like it. It's going to give me some Florida flashbacks as we're running during this winter season when it's like dull and miserable. But yeah, we're going to end the video here. So thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.